Tebow will be excused.
Okay.
It's time to get started. So I want to welcome everyone today to the Transportation Commission's meeting of March 18th. And we will start with a call to order and roll call, please.
Commissioner Gifford?
Here.
Commissioner Stanton?
Here.
Commissioner Adams?
Here.
Commissioner Brackey?
Here.
Commissioner Vasquez? Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
Commissioner Zink?
Here.
Commissioner Hickey?
Here, thank you.
Commissioner Tebow?
Excused.
Commissioner Beatty?
Here.
Vice Chair Hall?
Here.
Chair Stewart?
Here. Thank you very much. Before we go to public comments, I'd like to announce a change to the agenda. Resolution 12, Policy Directive 1601 will be taken off the agenda for today and deferred to a meeting in the future. So want to make that announcement of an agenda change. And now we're going to go to public comments. And we did get 2 public comments forwarded to us. One from Matt Fromer from Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, commenting on the AQCC rulemaking to create greenhouse gas rules, pollution standards, and another one from Danny Katz of COPERG, and it's along the same lines of commenting on the ACQQ's greenhouse gas pollution reduction roadmap rulemaking. So we have those comments. We've all received them and read them, and they'll be in the minutes. And I think we have a guest, Commissioner Wheelock, would like to speak to us. Is that right, Jennifer?
Yes, and we also have one other comment from Angel of Academy Park Pediatrics, stating that we as a company would like to thank the snowplow crews for clearing the roads so we could make it into our office on Monday, March 15th, 2021. Our office is located off of Wadsworth and Girton. We want to say thank you for all your hard work.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I see that here as well. So thank you very much for noticing that. So Commissioner Wheelock, if you'd like to give us your comments, we'd love to hear them.
Sure, thanks. I see a number of familiar faces and names on the screen, so nice to see everybody that I have met before and run into here and there. My name is Randy Wheelock. I'm a Clear Creek County Commissioner, have been so for several years now. I'm the co-chairman of the collaborative effort, the I-70 collaborative effort, vice chairman of the I-70 Coalition, board of directors of DRCOG, chairman of CE's Transit and AGS Advanced Guideway Subcommittee, and have been contributing to the Pegasus project. I have lived in Clear Creek County for 50 years. It will be this year, and originally worked on the Eisenhower Tunnel and the construction of I-70. And so I'm familiar with the pre-highway and pre-tunnel conditions here and those post-highway conditions. Clear Creek County endures severe congestion impacts. We are not part of the ski area. How do I want to say, resort community as much as we are part of an interurban, almost an in-between place. And as a result, our air quality has recently been found to be worse in some of the areas in some of the more central quarter areas of Denver. And our towns are often, and our frontage roads are often congested to the extent that we can't get ambulances and fire trucks through. And that's our primary motivation for trying to decongest I-70 and the work that we've done for 2 or 3 decades in dealing with that. I was unable to attend yesterday meeting's comments, but I have some staff did attend or observe that meeting and heard some of the comments about the microtransit proposal that was being made. And I want to assure the folks here that I was one of the instigators of this thing a couple of years ago as I sat with Director Liu, and not once did we talk about moving more skiers to the mountains as much as we talked about how to decongest the highway and how to change air quality and how to be able to deliver a planet somewhere down the road to our great grandchildren. That was the real topic of conversation. And Director Liu turned to me and asked how we could get, because we can't fit buses into the westbound peak period or eastbound peak period shoulder lanes, how can we get transit into those lanes? And my answer was build transit that fits. And that set my mind in motion. And I started thinking about a lot of things over the last 2 years as we formed this committee. And other people have thought about these things before. I'm just a carpenter, so I know I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but these are existing technologies that we look at and emerging technologies. If you look at the highway today, we see the buses helping, Bustang helps, but sometimes buses and trucks become rolling roadblocks, and it's impossible to use the advantages of express lanes, whether in the mountains or elsewhere, to use them in that condition. When you look at the I-70 corridor, you see about 143,000 people doing about 2 vertical miles of climbing as they climb up and over back over the weekend. And that's about 12 to 1,500 times one Apollo moonshot in terms of payload delivery of people to their destination. To give you some idea of the energy that we're expending along that corridor and what's making these air quality differences. It has huge environmental impacts. So as I thought about it because for a little while I was studying aerospace engineering. So I just started putting together payload delivery and wondering, and I looked at the GTI that I drive, and I learned that cars like my GTI, my very small one carrying the 2.8 people per car who travel during peak period congestion up that corridor, come to about 1,300 pounds per person. So there's about 1,300 of mass to lift and work and reaccelerate in congestion and deaccelerate constantly. And that's true whether you're in an urban arterial, an interurban arterial between Baltimore and DC, between Denver and Fort Collins, or wherever you are, those conditions exist. I looked at the buses, and they're about 1,000 pounds per passenger when I divided gross vehicle weight by the number of passengers on the bus. And then I looked at shuttles, and I found out that they're about 750 pounds. And it struck me that if we were redesigning a system from scratch, knowing what we know today, we'd be thinking about those kinds of concepts and how to move people in places in ways that burn less energy, emit less, and get people there more mobily without creating congestion, and instead help it. One of those vans equals about 6 cars on the road. And so it can grossly just decongest that traffic. They have the power and mass to overcome the other vehicles. They can run with the Audis, and they work everywhere. I think in closing, I'm an old guy, so I like to tell stories. So I will tell you that in 1895, pretty much around that time, the automobile and my grandfather were born. That was 125 years ago. About 100 years ago, he was using these new contraptions that had these piston engines slapping around inside and belching gas out the back to haul hay to the barn. It was 100-year-old technology effectively being functional by that time. 50 years later, half that distance, another half a century later, we sent 3 people to the moon, one of those Apollo moonshots. And we calculated every single ounce in order to be able to get them back safely alive. And then by 2020, this year, we're still using the 125-year-old technology to move people on this highway in manners that are less efficient than they could be. And so we have another payload, which is delivered to the next century, which is, our offspring to a planet that is habitable at that time. So the reason I tell you all of this is to let you know this wasn't about, I never once thought about getting skiers to the mountains. I thought about decongesting our highways and our frontage roads along these areas in our area, and about finding a better way to move people on this highway, which is our responsibility and that's on every highway everywhere. These same principles hold true, whether you're at a congested arterial in a city, whether you're climbing up and down hills going anywhere, or whether you're coming up this corridor to the mountains. And at the end of the day, what was asked for yesterday was about a 20th of a big bridge or interchange in order to take a chance at this, just to make a decision that can help put an idea in motion that can help deliver that payload to the future, which is our future generations, by finding a better way to move on the highways. I'm a transit proponent, a multimodal proponent, but I also understand we're not going to tear these highways up and throw them away. I helped build them. And I would like to know that we would find a way to use them in the future. And so all we're asking is a few dollars to try to deliver an idea that I think could radically transform how our highways operate in the future. It's a small investment, and I don't think it would be a really large step to take. And I would really, really encourage you to think about that microtransit funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Willock, a great story and a great story. So thanks very much for your comments. We appreciate it. Are there any other comments to come before the commission this morning? I think I was noticed that there was a comment from Jenny Gang as well. Is that right, Herman?
Yes, that was part of the packet that included three other public comments that you received last night.
And
Thank
I
you.
have to leave for another meeting. I mean, no insults. As you can tell, I joined too many committees. I said yes too often, so I have to go now. Thank you.
Well, thanks for saying yes to this one. We appreciate it. Thanks, Herman. We'll go to comments of chair and individual commissioners now, and we'll start with Commissioner Gifford, please.
Always good to go first. So the one thing I would like to say today is just that we understand that there will be a bill introduced in the legislature today to provide additional transportation funding. And particularly, we hope we'll be fulfilling many people throughout the state goals of greater electrification and also additional funds for multimodal transportation options. And we look forward to doing everything that we can to support the maturation and eventual fruition of this bill, and hope that the public will see this as a thoughtful and considered effort to address some of the many concerns we've heard over the past several years as various transportation funding efforts have failed. We need the money. We need the money for all kinds of transportation purposes, and we look forward to doing what we need to do and can do to make this happen. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Stanton.
Thanks, Chair Stewart. I really appreciated Commissioner Randy Wheelock putting things in perspective for us on microtransit. I agree with him, and especially his point that we're all connected. You know, I'm from Jefferson County, Clear Creek County is our neighbor, but we're really all connected across this state, all the way through Eagle, down to Montezuma and to the east. And we as a commission work towards that. Also, I wanted to thank Cdot and engineer Paul Jositis and his team for their ongoing efforts to improve the poor bridges on I-70 West. And recently we talked about funding for Ward Road Bridge, which desperately needs fixing, and I appreciate the efforts. Also, I wanted to call out CDOT's team, the snow plowing, but also the maintenance, Tamara Rollison on media, you know, working with the public. And it reminded us of what an important part CDOT employees, everybody has on the well-being of our economic and social well-being of our state. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Commissioner Adams.
I'll quickly echo the comments, thanking CDOT staff, particularly for the Herculean efforts around, last week's snowstorm, and I'm sure the hours that everyone put in. I appreciated the note this morning, thanking CDOT for all their efforts. That was very encouraging. Some of the things I've been able to do, and I think I'd like to highlight, is I was able to sit in on an update meeting on I-25 GAP and the project. I'm very encouraged by what I heard about the progress that we've made in terms of the status of the project, the sensitivity around everything in terms of wildlife planning, making the entire corridor safer for travelers, and in general, the ability to complete the project with some sensitivity around small business diversity and inclusion, in that they are actually exceeding their goals in terms of the progress they've made. So I was very encouraged by that. The other thing I'd like to comment on is I am involved in a couple of meetings with the COMPTO, which is a minority transit organization in our community that has allowed me to spend more time with our small business and minority colleagues that are working throughout the state to be involved and make sure that they're included in our small business and diversity efforts. I'm participating on a panel with Senator Winter and Representative Gray, basically talking about transportation in those communities. So I'm encouraged by the response I've received on those topics from Director Liu, Commissioner Stewart, and the rest of Cdot staff. So I think those are all just positive signs of kind of progress we're making within Cdot in making sure that Cdot is an inclusive organization for the entirety of our state. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Brackey.
Good morning. I want to first start by saying thank you for all of the public comments that we received, particularly around the snow removal was very great to hear that. And again, a huge thanks to all the Cdot staff that were working on that. My understanding is that when a big event like that happens, it's not just the snowplow operators and the typical maintenance crews, but it's an all hands on deck effort across the organization, and everyone chips in from all of the different roles. So really appreciate that. Again, Herculean effort is a great way to say that. I also appreciate the comments that came in regarding the greenhouse gas reduction work that's going on, and want to thank the Cdot staff and other state agencies that have been hosting all of the various public meetings virtually and seeking out information. It sounds like we're going to be able to have more dialogue around that at forthcoming Transportation Commission workshops. So I look forward to that as well. I also want to say I'm excited to be hopeful about additional funding for transportation. Commissioner Gifford mentioned the state funding this morning. Looking forward to seeing that. And then also want to thank our congressional delegation for all the work that's going on in DC to create additional funding for transportation through the stimulus funding, and then as well as hopefully through future infrastructure opportunities as well. We had a chance to talk yesterday in our workshop about the $30 million that was approved by the state legislature for Cdot Safer Main Streets program. So I think that's very exciting. So again, some real immediate and tangible opportunities to improve transportation options and choices and safety for our communities. And then just in terms of other Transportation Commission work this past month, I had an opportunity to meet with our North I-25 Coalition, the North Front Range MPO, and also the Upper Front Range Transportation Planning Region. So it's been a busy month, but I think there's a lot of exciting things happening in the transportation space. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Commissioner Brackey. Commissioner Vasquez.
Yeah, first I want to add my voice to congratulate Commissioner Wheelock for his very eloquent promotion of microtransit. We should all be so eloquent. Secondly, I want to thank the public in general for all the communications that we've received, not only on the greenhouse gas reduction roadmap and performance during this snowstorm, but in particular about the pilot program that's being requested by Hinsdale County for OHV permission on State Highway 149. And I'll reserve my time for making another comment when we consider that proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vasquez. Vice Chair Hall. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. I try to make sure there's no extra sound coming this way. Thank you very much. Good morning. It's like I said, even though we're all on Zoom, it's been very busy. I attended, as we talked a little bit yesterday, about a mobility hub in Grand Junction. So I attended by Zoom the first meeting on that mobility hub in Grand Junction, and I'm so enthused about it because it truly is unique for us, and it would involve Greyhound, as they talked about. They already now using our hub for transit, but it would be Mustang, Greyhound, and Grand Valley Transit, and hopefully Amtrak, all in the very central location. So I'm pretty enthused about it. We're appreciative of that $500,000 grant to do the planning to apply for a bill grant. So it's just in the first stages, but I'm very enthused about it. I also attended a special meeting of our Gunnison Valley TPR because we have a project out in our area that has ended up taking a tremendous amount of time of our executive director. And this project is the Little Blue Canyon. And on each side of the canyon, Cdot has been putting money for several years into widening those lanes and putting in shoulders so that it's much safer. And the last piece of that is this very tight canyon. And it's going to be a very painful one. And that is the reason that I want to be sure and thank, and I will thank everyone, but it's a very painful project. It's Highway 50. So you know that's a main thoroughfare for our particular area. And so it involves everything from agriculture. It's a corridor where they haul cattle and sheep to the summer pastures, and then it's cattle and sheep to the market in the fall. It's where our wonderful Olathe sweet corn gets to the Front Range. And of course, you all want to enjoy that Olathe sweet corn. And so that's how it gets to the Front Range. But also, we have a very large lumbering project of the beetle kill, which is really important to get the beetle kill out of that particular area and make it productive. So we have like the only lumber mill in Colorado that's left in Colorado, and it operates and goes through that particular area. So there's so many uses, it's very, very painful. And the only alternative is Highway 92, which is, of course, beautiful if you're a sightseer, because it's along the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. So it's a gorgeous, but if you're driving big trucks, it's pretty hazardous. So I want to be sure and thank Executive Director Lou, because she has spent a tremendous amount of her time on this project. And I know she has lots of other things to do. I'd also like to do a huge thank you to Mike Goolsby, RETD, Jason Smith, engineer, Raylene Shealy, who has worked so hard to make everyone part of this project. And of course, Elise Thatcher, who is our PEO out there. And along with that, I want to really thank Renee Siegel with the Central Federal Lands Highway Division, because I know she has had to spend a great deal of time on this, because this is a joint project between Central Federal Lands Highway and Cdot. And so I want to be sure and thank all of them for their hard work on this. We're going to get it moving. It's going to be a 2-year project. And like I said, it's going to be painful, but it'll be marvelous when it's done, and it will be so much safer because that canyon is very dangerous at this point. So I just wanted to thank all of them, and thank you very much.
And thank you, Commissioner Hall, for all your diligence and the many meetings that you've been in. I remember that meeting I went to last summer. We've come a long way since then, and thanks to you and to Director Lou for working with the communities there. And sometimes I think we forget, not we, but I think we in Colorado forget that there's a lot of communication with local jurisdictions and stakeholders, and that's how we developed a 10-year plan. It's a valiant effort, I think, many times to make sure that we respond to concerns and stakeholders' concerns and accommodate people whose activities will be really affected by some of the work that we do, some of the very necessary and important work that we do. So thanks for all that you do as well. Now I'll go to Commissioner Sink, please.
Thank you. Good morning. I too wanted to talk a little bit about this Little Blue Canyon. Commissioner Hall covered it very, very well, better than I could, I'm sure, because it's kind of, again, from a Colorado view, is kind of an obscure spot, but it's really a critical spot as well. And it happens to also be where her region or her district and my district hit each other, and Region 5 and Region 3. And so there have been a lot of people involved, which is, I think, a good thing. But I also wanted to mention the commentary from Central Federal Lands Highway Division. I was so impressed with how they got into this and weighing the pros and cons of, if we do this, then it's going to extend the project and it's going to cost this much more. And if we don't, it's going to. So I really felt like they were really a partner in trying to come up with the best resolution. Because sitting in your car for 5 hours waiting for your turn to pass through is certainly an unpleasant thing, and it's a significant and long project. So there will be much more conversation, and I think their open house coming up, and get a lot of comment. So that's it. Thank you.
And thanks for your involvement in that too. I know it's been a big effort for both regions and for all of you who represent that region. Thank you, Commissioner Zink. Commissioner Hickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Hickey, representing District 9, newly confirmed. And I too wanted to echo some of the comments made by my fellow commissioners. First, to thank Cdot for its hard work getting us through that snowstorm as safely as possible. I have had a busy month. I'll only touch on a few activities. Cdot is doing an excellent job with the greenhouse gas emission outreach and advisory council that it has created, which is a diverse set of voices. And they're doing a series of meetings trying to solicit input from all around the state. And I applaud them for doing that and encourage public voices to be heard as much as possible about that important subject. I also had the opportunity to attend the South Gap update discussion, and I found that to be fascinating for a couple of reasons. It seems the project's going well on a timely basis. What they're doing to improve that roadway will certainly increase safety, and our ability to drive through that beautiful area in a way that we can continue to appreciate it. One of the important safety aspects of that road is the wildlife crossings. There will be several of them, and that's been an area known for collisions with wildlife, especially deer in the middle of the night. So it's sort of a mix between an urban area and a wild area, with the greenway that it crosses in northern El Paso County and southern Douglas. And so it's taken a lot of important, careful design, and certainly the construction has been a well-organized process, which, you know, everyone is frustrated about just because it's such a big part of our lives. And therefore I thank Cdot and the contractors for all of that hard work. I am going to be a part of an important local discussion that's just being developed, so I can't say too much about it yet, but we're talking about how to revive our local leaders into a collaborative discussion about both funding for transportation and safety improvements. Safety has suffered significantly over the past year, especially, and we already were losing too many lives to vehicle and pedestrian or vehicle, bicycle, and vehicle-to-vehicle crashes. And so we're going to discuss that more intensely down here and try to bring that to Cdot as well as to our local governments. And I'll report more about that as it proceeds. I just want to thank Cdot again too for its work to improve the safety and paving on our rural roads. That is an important part of the 10-year plan, which we all fully support, and I'm glad to see it done. I want to thank Rich Zamora as the Regional 2 Director, who keeps me tied into our important activities down here, helps keep me informed. And finally, I do also want to thank the public for those speaking to us in person and submitting written comments throughout the month and at these meetings. We do take those very seriously, even if we don't touch on them all and repeat them back. We do contemplate those important issues, and they're critical for us to be informed in our decision making. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hickey, and congratulations on your appointment being being accepted by the Senate. Appreciate that, the confirmation of that. It's a big milestone. Thank you. Commissioner Tebow is not with us, so we're going to give him pass on day, and then we'll go finally to Commissioner Beatty.
Yeah, thank you. Not a lot of activity in my district this last month. Did have our TPR meeting, mostly updates on scheduled projects and things moving forward. The one safety projects will be doing the 287 highway passing lanes that we had bad accidents on last year. So hopefully those will help alleviate some of those issues on that corridor in my district. I wanted to thank Mr. Wheelock for his comments about and the perspective of payload. I think that's something that really is an interesting perspective, and that can apply all the way across all of our transportation with freight and even train service and things. When you get to trains, you really need to have a large volume of people or goods moving on it to be efficient with the energy you're using. So those are things I think we need to look at across all the different modes and what we're trying to move on our transportation system. Which modes can get what we need in the most flexible manner, and that's where the micro transit I think really helps. Is it gets people more flexibility to go directly to where they need to with the lower payload costs. So if we can apply that to our freight and other issues as we look at those issues, and future rail and other things that the portions of the state want or need, we need to weigh those, and are we going to have enough users to really offset the energy cost of doing passenger trains. We need lots of people in view to make those energy efficient. So I just really like that perspective and think we should try to incorporate that in the greenhouse gas discussions and our planning and things. Is what are we moving and how are we going to do it in the most efficient manner? And part of that is, as we're addressing congestion, we hear from people that say we don't want to add capacity. Well, some of the efficiencies, the only way to get efficiency is add capacity in certain areas. We have to be strategic about it. We shouldn't just go building anywhere, but capacity adds safety and other issues too. So those are things I think as a commission with our discussions, we do weigh, working with everybody and our staff and everything. So just perspectives for our future discussions. And I like that payload perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just round it out by thanking all of you for your comments. And I appreciate all of them and agree with all of them. And I too am eager to see what the transportation bill looks like. And just want to remind us all that we have a multimodal 10-year plan that focuses on safety and efficiency and sustainability, and really eager to see how that plugs into this plan. Also want to thank Heather Paddock from Region 4 and Paul Ducettis from Region 1, working with me to keep me updated on what's going on in the district that I serve, which is District 4, Boulder, Broomfield, and Adams County. So I really appreciate that as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Executive Director, Shoshana Liu, for her report. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Stewart. And I think folks have covered a lot of the highlights of this month. There's a ton going on and moving fast, but we're making a lot of progress on many, many fronts. Yeah, to start with the obvious, our last week has been really occupied by dealing with the weather that's come in. Good for the snowpack and the moisture, but a challenging weekend, especially for our maintenance teams, who really did a remarkable job in a late season event. And these spring storms come with extra challenges because folks have let their snow guard up. So we had tremendous problems with lack of compliance with chain law, especially. Folks probably saw that there were closures across many of the sort of key junctures, and just a lot of folks whose behaviors had already sort of transitioned into spring mode, but spring had not yet quite sprung on the roads. So really working together with the State Patrol, our folks led by John Lermay just did a phenomenal job with a very prolonged and difficult event, and would just say that the level of focus and communication around our teams I thought was extraordinary, and really just mission focused, and did a great job. And then I got to do another one in a different part of the state 2 days later. So really hats off, and just a reminder of how important the basic mission of what we do is to the day-to-day of the safety of the traveling public. On the project front, I think that Vice Chair Hall and Commissioner Zink and others already talked about the Little Blue Canyon project, but I have spent a good deal of time over the last month working together with the Federal Highway Administration to just sort of hear out all of the concerns about construction as we go into that. And I think what we've seen in that is a really collaborative process with the affected folks coming together directly to talk with the teams that are working on the project about what it's going to mean day to day. And the solution that Federal Highways came up with, I think, is an elegant way to thread the needle, since there's no way to make everybody happy, but really is, I think, very sensitive to the real people who are using that arterial during construction. And now it's time to deliver on it, but it was, I think, a good model for what a process could look like heading into a hard project, and hope that kind of dialogue and collaboration persists on many other projects. Folks have already heard about the pending conversations regarding the state funding discussion, so I suspect we'll all see more on that soon. Just on a delivery note, I got a chance to see the progress on the Central 70 project a few weeks ago, and it's really remarkable how much work has gotten done over the last year. It's turned from a excavation to a piece of infrastructure, and I know that Steve was out there a few weeks after I was, and you can really see it taking shape. And we're heading towards some sort of traffic milestones that will start to take away some of the inconvenience of that project for the traveling public as it moves forward. And it's really just rounding out a season where we saw amazing progress on our biggest projects and our smaller ones. I think what one kind of fun note is that this month we announced the first ever Name That Plow competition. Something that a number of states had already done, following on some international examples. And the governor did the announcement, and the other exciting part of that was that we had a feature presentation from the kids of Stephen Martinez, who's one of the all-stars on our team, did the voiceover for the video, and they just today named the second plow. Drum roll, the second plow is named Cold Rush. And that, I think, is a good note to end on.
Thank you. Now we'll go to, looks like Chief Engineer's report. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Stewart. Shoshana stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's okay. I've got, as she mentioned, Central 70 is moving quite along, and the most fun I've had over the last month was the tour of that project last week. I sent some slides to Jennifer. Hopefully she can put them up. I took a couple pictures inside the tunnel. You can see, or the covered section, you can see in this picture there's some jet fans. Those are going to provide ventilation. This is at the easterly portal of the covered section. And as you can see, they're putting on the finishing touches of that highway section. The lights are running, the jet fans are spinning. They've started testing the fire suppression system. Next slide, please. There's a picture inside the tunnel. That wall to the left side of the picture, that's ultimately going to be the barrier, the middle dividing the eastbound from the westbound. But in the temporary section, we're going to put all 6 lanes of traffic in this structure. So eastbound will be next to that wall, and westbound will be where the camera's sitting. Again, you can see the lights, the pipes, if you look closely, are the fire suppression system. But it's really coming along. One more slide. I think it's essentially the same view. It's a little bit further, but again, it's starting to look like a highway. They're looking to do a late May traffic shift. So getting the traffic from the viaduct down into this lowered section and onto the rest of the road that's been completed, and then start knocking down the viaduct and then building the mirror image of this structure on the other side. So I'm sure if any of you would like to take a tour, Bob Hayes would be more than happy to arrange that. And we're having a celebration called Mile High Shift. I think the team is developing the details of that, but I think the idea is that we'll have this section open for people to come walk through before it's open to traffic a week or so before we do that switch. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to find out those details and move into that. So that's all I have on the Central 70 stuff. I got a couple other things I'd like to chat about. First, a number of people have talked about the blizzard, and obviously the maintenance staff and the plow operators just did a wonderful job last weekend and then early this week down in Region 2. But I'd like to also single out some of the engineering staff that mobilize to man road closures, and that helps out both law enforcement and our maintenance staff, because if we've got engineering staff manning the road closures, that frees a maintenance guy who has a CDL to sit in a plow or else go home and get some sleep. So thanks to all those engineers that essentially volunteered to do that. They gave up their weekend. It was kind of tense because the storm was delayed by about 24 hours. So everybody was, just sitting ready to go all Saturday, and we didn't have to go till Sunday, but just big thanks to all of those folks who did that. Final thing I want to talk about is a retirement from that many of you are unaware of. There's a gentleman named Tom Bovey retired from Cdot here this month, and he did something very special and very wonderful for Cdot. He worked in Region 5, and we have a system where we store our engineering files called ProjectWise, and we've had it for probably 10 or 12 years. And it was kind of an early, I'll call it a cloud-based system where engineering drawings were stored in directories, and we had a directory structure. And Tom grew frustrated with how it was functioning. And rather than just complain about it, he did something about it. He researched what the problem was. He looked at what other states do and what private consultants do, and he figured out that our system was set up all wrong. It had a single file server instead of 5 or 6 file servers, and particularly in rural parts of the state, it could take hours or an infinite amount of time to download and upload drawings, which really impacted productivity for those folks. So he essentially single-handedly transformed that system to function better. He got his hands dirty. He learned about what was wrong. He used a bunch of his political capital to get it fixed. One of the things that struck me, I don't remember the exact numbers, but apparently we had some ungodly number of files, like 2.6 million file directories, and only 2.4 and 2.4 million of those were empty. So every time someone looked for a file, the computer server would have to sort through millions of empty files to find the full files. And so Tom attempted to simplify some of that. And that can be a challenge because different factions within Cdot wanted to have their file structure the way that they wanted, and Tom pursued that and worked to get that solved. So I wanted to thank Tom in a very public way and describe him as a wonderful example of a Cdot employee who saw a problem and against all odds worked his tail off to fix it. And I just wanted to thank him and wish him the best as he moves into retirement. So thanks, Tom. And that's all I have this month.
That was great.
Thank you, Chief Engineer. And Commissioner Vasquez has a question for you.
Hi, Steve. Just a quick question on the avalanche that closed Highway 14 in the snowstorm. I'm curious whether it was exacerbated at all by the wildfire scar.
I do not know that answer. Generally not. It's but I can find that out and get that answer for you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to HPD Director Nick Farber next.
Thank you, Chair. So yesterday at the HPD board meeting, the board approved, amongst other things, an interagency agreement with Cdot, which I'll come to you a little later today for asking for your approval on. And the board also approved our FY22 budget. Of note, in the budget, we adjusted our C470 toll revenue down because of the reduction in express lane volumes due to the pandemic. We are also anticipating drawing on our ramp-up reserve and our O&M reserve in our trust indenture, which are fully funded. You know, as the administration of the vaccine is more widespread and the public feels more comfortable moving around, we are anticipating growth in express lane volumes towards the summer and fall, hopefully reaching 90% of 2019 volumes by the beginning of next year. Also regarding C470, we are currently meeting our debt service on the corridor as well as our debt service coverage ratios. But while we're not anticipating this at this time, if the project fails to satisfy any coverage test for the June through December timeframe or the January through June of next year timeframe, we'll be required to engage a traffic and revenue consultant to assess project operations and opportunities for increasing revenue on the corridor for our TIFIA loan with US DOT Build America Bureau. Also yesterday, the board approved a resolution in support of the I-270 Infra grant application. HPD staff believe it's reasonable for the HPD to contribute $200 million in HPD toll-back revenue financing. We're currently conducting a more in-depth traffic and revenue study, which will be done by the summer, and it's also taking into account post-COVID traffic volumes and a gradual return to 2019 traffic levels. The study will be complete. Okay, sorry, I said that. If a larger portion of the project can be financed, we'll adjust that $200 million up. But if it shows that we can't make the $200 million, which I think is unlikely, we'll have to identify other funding. We're also continue to work with the Fitch rating agency on obtaining an indicative rating from them on the I-25 North TIFIA loan. We anticipate having that by the end of the month, which will allow us to move into the creditworthiness phase with TIFIA and hopefully reach financial close on that loan by late summer, early fall. Also last week, I met with the director of Utah's new legislatively selected Facilitator for Public-Private Partnerships, which they're calling P3+. We discussed lessons learned from our two public-private partnerships and how they could go about developing a program in their state. And I think we will be reaching out to them as they kind of develop their program and help out with them. And I think that's all I have. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for your report. I don't see any questions in the chat, so we'll move on to Government Relations Legislative Report, please.
I think we have Andy. There you go, Andy.
I am here. Thank you. Very quickly, I'll be brief because I know you all have so much on your plates today. I won't touch on the transportation funding package that you all discussed this morning. I'll kind of concentrate on some of the smaller bills that are moving through that we've been monitoring or working on. One is our Cdot project limit bill. It was up in committee yesterday. It was laid over 2 days ago, laid over based on some concerns from labor that we are addressing and working on a couple of amendments. And then that will be back in committee on, I believe, next Thursday. They just rescheduled it. We also heard from the Joint Tech Committee this morning. OIT was in there doing their OIT revamp bill, 99% of which doesn't impact us except for the provision that allows them more flexibility in dealing with state agencies And that, of course, as we've talked about before, will allow us more flexibility in negotiating with them what the work will be in regards to our IT systems and what they manage and what we manage. We got permission from Senate leadership to pursue a late bill in regards to our off-site advertising, outdoor advertising, and it was an O, outdoor advertising. This is a bill that based off of a court case that is pending, upcoming. We think there will be a judgment soon that we want to get ahead of in order to preserve some of our outdoor advertising regulations. So we're running a late bill to clarify some of that language ahead of the game there. The Ray Scott procurement bill that we've discussed in the past was delayed for a week. That will be heard next Thursday as well. We did get an official post position from the governor's office on that we requested. And they also moved the EV charging bill that Representative Pico brought forward also. This was the one that creates a study group with Cdot and CDPH&E to determine what the EV fee can be moving into the future. That's the registration fee. There's a couple of bills coming up today that have to deal with information sharing from government agencies, personal identification information, as well as some e-record filing. Both are being amended in ways that are beneficial to us. The e-records are being, it's a study that will take a look at primarily what CDOT's already doing, but a lot of other state departments aren't. And a big kudos to Herman and Tammy on getting CDOT to a point where these electronic records are filed in a way that this legislation wouldn't have impacted us, because, as I said, a lot of other state departments were impacted by it. So very forward thinking for us. And then finally, just some greenhouse gas conversations that are continuing. One having to deal with green materials, and then the other one having to deal with outreach that the department does when we identify disadvantaged or impacted communities that are environmentally impacted by some of our larger transportation projects. So with all of that, that's kind of what's going on with some of the smaller bills and conversations under the dome. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Thanks very much, Andy. We sure appreciate this addition to our agenda. We know it takes some time on your part and staff time, but really appreciate that, particularly as things move pretty rapidly. I don't see any questions for you in the chat box, so just want to tell you we appreciate you and keep up the hectic pace that you have to have during this session to make sure that we get what we need out of the legislature. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to FHWA report from John Cater, please.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to highlight a success story here we've got. I appreciated Steve's pictures from the Central 70 project and the great progress that's being made there. I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that opportunity to go down and check that out here sometime this spring. That's great to see all that progress. But another piece of progress on that project, a great success, is the local hiring pilot that was done there. And so when the project was being developed, there was a national pilot program available for local hiring preference. And so we took advantage of that on the project. We were one of a handful of projects nationally that was able to do that. That pilot has since expired, although I will say that there's a lot of talk right now into creating another one or being able to put something together. So I would not be surprised if we have another pilot program or maybe a permanent program along those lines soon. But anyway, we had the pilot there, which was for hiring local folks onto the project. And part of that was to create a grant, federal seed money to create a Ladders of Opportunity grant, as it's called, to develop a workforce training program for hiring local residents. And I got some numbers here, but a huge success story. It's called Work Now Workforce Development Program. And just all sorts of great numbers here. For the last quarter, as an example, there was 167 people were enrolled. Of those, 9 were placed on the Central 70 project, and 63 were placed in other projects in the similar area. And enrollees, just some of the benefits they get out of it. Their wage before signing up for this program was around $12.59 an hour. Now they come off the program, their average rate for apprentices is $20.43. That's starting. So you figure somebody's gone from a wage of around $12.59 up to $20.43. What a huge difference that is on their their family, on themselves, on their ability to have a better spot economically in society. And that's just starting, because now as you're an apprentice, you're going to be able to advance and even get better salaries as well going forward. Retention rate after 6 months is 86%. So we're great retention. Some numbers on the project: we've hired 691 employees from the local zip codes around the project. And those folks have worked a total of 733,000 hours. And that's as of several weeks ago. So it's probably even higher now. But again, that's a huge number of hours, nearly, getting close to 1 million hours of work on the project. And some of these people, they don't only just work on this project, but then they work on other projects. They may work on Denver's drainage project, or the work at the stock show, or anywhere in the metro area, really. And so it's been a great way of getting folks into the industry, getting them that foothold, getting that first step up the ladder, and being able to take that and go on from there. So a great success story. I think one we can do it elsewhere as well. But it's been a great chance to see that we're getting numbers now. We've been doing this long enough. We got some tangible stories and successes. So I will stop there. But a great program, and one that I think is being used nationally as an example of how this can work. So lots of good news there. So thanks.
Thanks, John. That was great to hear. Appreciate it. And good work on that, I think, to everybody involved in that program. We'll go now to Vince Rogowski for the State Transportation Advisory Committee report, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Last fall, the STAC went through the process of renewing and adapting the bylaws to conditions and the need for rapid information sharing. One of the things they said in the new bylaws is the fact that we need to get information about a week ahead of the meeting. And if there's any other item that comes later than the week, especially those needing action, that the STAC would have to approve the addition to the agenda. And so we had one of those at this particular meeting, and we're going to talk about that later. And it dealt with the statewide transportation needs, and we're going to talk about what we decided and how we got there. Herman gave us an update on the current events that are happening, and announced the appointment of Julie Constan to replace Mike McVaugh as director in Region 5. And so it's congratulations to her, and we're going to move things right along. The legislature approved, Herman talked about the fact that legislature approved the 30 million stimulus package that we talked about yesterday in dealing with safer Main Streets and revitalizing Main Streets programs. The legislature is considering new transportation revenue programs and asked that Cdot seek STAC input on the matter. And that was refreshing that the STAC is really moving along to provide advice. Also, Herman had John Lermay talk about what's going to happen on the weekend in terms of the snow. And he presented all the things that Cdot are getting ready for. And one of the comments he made is the fact that the people in the mountains know how to drive when there's 2 or 3 feet of snow. And my comment back to him is that's only because Cdot clears the roads for us. And so Cdot has done a great job in keeping everything that the mountains are aware of anyway, open. And I'm want to say that the Cdot plowing staff does a wonderful job. Moving on, safe routes to schools. That's later on your agenda to approve. We reviewed the programs and applications that were presented, and 12 safe route to schools projects to award $5.8 million. And while there is $6 million available, there's some that's still unprogrammed. And so STAC approved unanimously these awards, but did not comment on the direction for the those funds that were unawarded as yet. 1601 was quick, and thank Aaron Willis in all his work and putting all the materials together for 1601. And so it was a short discussion, and the stack recommended that the directive for 1601 move forward and approved the things that have been done. The budget. Jeff Sedmeyer presented to us the 2022 budget, and some of the things that were happening, especially how they recovered funds from the Surface Transportation Black Grant to cover some of the shortages. And we reviewed all that, and the stack discussed the rollovers that appear to be fairly large, and it was the fact that the 267 funding has not yet been encumbered because of the process of the bidding and all this kind of stuff that's happening. So those are moving forward. The stack unanimously supports and approve the budget to move forward to you guys in order to get approval to move to the governor. We had a presentation from Rebecca and Sharon Terranova on funding for 267 year 3. And so all of those projects were presented, and we have to understand that of those $500 million projects, 50 million will go to transit. And so there was a lot of discussion about transit. DRCOG region expressed a desire to bring discussion to the stakeholders, particularly their TAC. Specifically, DRCOG wishes to discuss the details of the preferred pre-construction priorities in the 5 to 10 year period. Representatives of the Upper Front Range expressed concern for the level of transit demand and for transit connections around Firestone and Longmont, mobility hubs. Some of the details of transit service interconnections are yet to be worked out, especially for Longmont, Loveland, and Bustang services in terms of servicing these hubs. Legislative report. Andy provided us a legislative report in terms of what's happening. He just did that for you guys. And so we'll move on for there because Stack didn't have any comments. The last item on our agenda was the item I brought up initially, statewide transportation needs, and what that really means. And the staff provided an overview of the statewide transportation needs identified through the 10-year pipeline of projects. That's been brought up before in terms of all the work that's been done around the state to connect with everybody possible to get the input on how this is all going to help the statewide transportation program. And staff presented a draft resolution for STAC to consider that urges legislative action to provide sustainable funding to address the state unmet transportation needs. The STAC had considered many unknown questions yet to be decided by the legislature, including competing urban and rural needs, highway versus multimodal needs, regional equity, environmental justice, and fair taxation issues. Ultimately, the STAC unanimously approved a resolution generally urging the legislature identify increased, reliable, long-term funding to benefit all of Colorado's population and all its transportation needs without addressing any specifics. And its intent to emphasize that the STAC's unified desire to fund the system's needs and STAC's ability to cooperating on addressing all the regions and all the modes of transportation for the best possible solution for Colorado. Well, that was that was a long one. I want to thank the commissioners who attended the meeting. And the meeting took up all the time that we had allocated. And so we did end at noon on last Friday. So next meeting is April 8th. And STAC want to recognize both Scott James and Dick Eisner, who are new STAC representatives to the Freight Advisory Committee, which is an important addition a number of years ago to discussion on transportation. Questions?
Don't see any in the chat box, so thanks very much for your report. Appreciate it. And we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is act on consent agenda. There are 5 consent agenda items. Proposed resolution number 1, approve the regular meeting minutes of January 4th, special meeting, and February 18th, 2021. Proposed resolution number 2, IGA approval of more than $750,000. Proposed resolution number 3, disposal of US 287 Berthoud bypass. Number 4 is disposal of I-25 and Bayou Street, parcel 130EX. And then proposed resolution number 5, FY 21-22, Safe Routes to School Awards. I would ask if there are any questions from the commission on the consent agenda. And if there is not, motion to approve is in order.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 6.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. A motion by Commissioner Hall and a second by Commissioner Beatty. Any further discussion on this consent agenda list?
I just had one question on the IGA approval of 750. On the packet, I can't find the attachment that lists the projects on my file that I have. So I don't know if that got left out or where that IG or the project list is. I need to make sure those are in the approved documents.
Thank you, Chief Engineer. It looks like Jennifer says it's in the document, but she'll send it to you now.
Thank you.
And also like to make the announcement that Commissioner Tebow has joined us for the record of this vote. Shall we wait on this until that comes through?
I'm good with going ahead with approval.
Okay, thank you very much. So there's
just comment that if you click on the PDF version, you're able to click directly to those documents. So we do have it.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Is there anyone who wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone who is opposed to this motion to approve? Seeing none, the chair calls says unanimous approval of consent agenda items. Thank you. We'll go on to discuss and act on proposed resolution 6A, which is condemnation authorization number 1, and I'll turn it over to the chief engineer.
Thanks, Chair. This resolution is for the condemnation of the property described at the workshop yesterday. It is just south of Prospect Road on I-25, and the property owner is the CSU Research Center. It is, as I discussed yesterday, it is under negotiation, but we want to go ahead with the condemnation authorization in case that negotiation falls through, but we're at the late stages of that. Are there any questions?
Thank you. So on this one, we've had the overview, including the map project need to condemn and acquire property, the communication offers, counter offers with the property owner. You've just asked if there's any questions from the commission, and I'll ask Jennifer, have we heard from anybody that has anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this?
No, ma'am.
If not, a motion is in order.
This is Commissioner Brackey. I move to approve Resolution 6A.
And I move to second, Stanton.
Motion by Commissioner Brackey and a second by Commissioner Stanton. Any further discussion? Is there anyone in the commission who wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone on the commission that is in opposition to this motion? All right, seeing none, the chair calls this as unanimous approval of condemnation authorization number 1. We'll go to discuss and act on proposed resolution 6B, which is condemnation resolution 2.
This resolution provides condemnation authorization for 4 parcels on I-25 Express Lane Segment 6. One of those is also under final negotiation. However, we would like to have authorization for that in case those negotiations fall through. We went over the particulars of each property yesterday at workshop, and I'd be happy to take any questions now.
Thank you. So we had an overview, including the map and the project need to acquire or condemn this property, and we had communication offers, counter offers with property owners sent out to us in a overview from Chief Engineer Harrelson. Chief Engineer has just asked if there's anyone in the commission who has any questions. I don't see any. And now I have to ask Jennifer, have we had any communication from the public on this condemnation?
No, we have not.
Thank you very much. Seeing none, a motion would be in order.
This is Commissioner Brackey. I move to approve Resolution 6B.
Commissioner Vasquez, second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Brackey and a second by Commissioner Vasquez. Is there any further discussion on this? Is there anyone on the commission who wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone on the commission who is in opposition to this motion? Seeing none, the chair calls this as unanimous approval of proposed resolution 6B. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discuss and act on proposed resolution 7, which is scope of work fee for service interagency agreement and IAA between HPTE and Cdot. I'll turn that over to Nick Farber.
Thank you again, Chair. So every year we come at this time of year, we come to the Transportation Commission on the board for approval of the interagency agreement between HPT and Cdot. In recognition of the specialized nature and expertise of the services HPT provides to Cdot, Cdot pays HPT through a fee for service interagency agreement. The interagency agreement documents the terms of our business relationship and includes our statement of work that Cdot wishes HPT to provide for the upcoming fiscal year. Of note, this year we will be developing a tolling equity program for the Central 70 project because of the corresponding requirements in the record of decision on that project. We'll also be leading the effort to develop a compliance and monitoring framework for the Central 70 project as well, which we also have on the US 36 project in regards to the public-private partnership and the developer's obligations, contractual obligations on the project for operations once construction is complete. Lastly, we'll be leading the effort to finalize the I-25 North Tiffy loan with the US DOT Build America Bureau, like I said in my director's report, by the end of this year. So our scope of work takes into account the cost of putting that loan together. Just also wanted to mention that for the last few years, our ask to CDOT has been $5.6 million. We've reduced that 28% to $4 million because of increased toll revenue on I-25 and on the Mountain Express Lane, and we are moving some of our expenses over to be paid for through toll revenue. And because of other interagency agreements we have with Cdot on I-270, Floyd Hill, and on the Burnham Yard project. If there aren't any questions, I ask for your approval on this resolution.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Nick? All right. Seeing none, motion is in order.
I so move, Commissioner Stanton.
Vasquez, second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Stanton and a second by Commissioner Vasquez. Any further discussion on the motion? Is there anyone on the Transportation Commission that wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone on the commission who is in opposition to this motion to approve? Seeing none, the chair calls this as unanimous approval of resolution number 7. Thank you. The next item is discuss and act on proposed resolution number 8, which is the 8th budget amendment of FY 2021. And I'll turn that over to Jeff.
Good morning. I'm requesting your approval of an amendment to the fiscal year 21 budget. This amendment complements the approval of the fiscal year 22 budget later on your agenda. Part of the strategy in balancing the fiscal year 22 budget in light of a nearly $46 million reduction in HUTF revenue was to set aside funds in the current fiscal year to help offset that reduced revenue in fiscal year 22. This is the amendment that accomplishes that. This amendment reallocates $12 million from the program reserve to maintenance reserve, $15 million from the program reserve to the contingency fund, and $2.8 million from the program reserve to the debt service program. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd request that you consider a motion to approve.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We had a lengthy, thorough workshop on this yesterday. And I'll ask if there's any questions from the commission. Seeing none. Oh, yes, please. Who is it?
No, I was just going to say I move to approve.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner Gifford.
Hall, I move to second.
Thank you. Have a motion from Commissioner Gifford and a second from Commissioner Hall. Any other questions? Any questions on this? All right, seeing none. Is there anyone on the commission that wishes to abstain from the vote? Is there anyone on the commission who is in opposition to approval? Seeing none, the chair calls this as unanimous approval on resolution number 8. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is discuss and act on proposed resolution number 10, which is off-highway vehicle resolution. And I'll turn that over to Mike Goolsby, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commission. This request we talked about yesterday. This is to allow the County of Hinsdale and the town of Lake City to allow OHVs in a short portion of the State Highway 149 to complete the Alpine Loop road. And I would ask for your approval and ask for any questions at this time, Chair.
Thank you very much. I have a comment from Commissioner Vasquez.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank all the members of the public who sent in their opinions, both pro and con, on this issue. As you know, we had a lengthy discussion at our last meeting in February on this OHV State Highway 149 pilot project, where concerns about safety were raised. And I want to congratulate Mike Goolsby and his engineer Zane, and Commissioner Hurd for taking our concerns seriously and going back and crafting a much more muscular and detailed proposal on how they will address those safety concerns. So I think all of us who have been involved in this discussion have learned quite a bit about how important this is to Hinsdale County and Lake City. There are a lot of people who are not in favor of it, but it is our job to make the best possible decision with the information we have. And again, thank you very much to Mike and his team for working with the county to come forward with this proposal. There is a key provision that really addresses the multi-agency nature of this Alpine Loop, in that there are permissions granted by the city, Lake City, by Hinsdale County, and travel management plans on public lands that allow OHV travel. And many of the concerns that were expressed by individuals in opposition to this are really a result of those multi-agency permissions. So thank you again, Mike, for allowing me to participate in commenting on this proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Vasquez. Commissioner Zink, comment?
Yes, I just want to point out again that there were people pro and con, and that was carefully considered. I know the people who don't get what they want feel like they were ignored, and please don't think that that's true. I think we had a very, very robust discussion, and why it was tabled last month and brought forward again this month as she said, with much more detail. And I think one of the most important things in there is that if at any time there are indications that this is unsafe and unworkable, that the commission can stop the project at any time, that even though we're approving it for a 3-year period, that doesn't mean that they're stuck with if it turns out not to be working the way that it's intended. And again, the participation of the locals was very important and appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Any other comments? Commissioner Hall?
I would just move for approval of this resolution number 10, the off-highway vehicle permit for Hinsdale County.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Gary Beatty, I second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hall and a second from Commissioner Beatty. Any further questions or comments? Thank you. I'd like to know if there's anyone on the Transportation Commission that wishes to abstain from this vote. Thank you. Is there anyone on the Transportation Commission that's in opposition to approval of this resolution? Just want to be clear that I see no one saying that they're in opposition to this motion to approve. Seeing no opposition, the chair calls this as an unanimous approval of resolution number 10. Thank you, and thanks staff, and thanks to everyone who took the time and effort to comment on this and help us craft something that's workable. Thank you. The next item is discuss and act on proposed resolution number 11, which is FY 2021 Infra grant proposal. Is that you, Herman, or Julie? Herman.
I didn't actually notice that was on the agenda as me. We do have both on the Bridge Enterprise and the Transportation Commission a request for support for I-270 infra grant application. It's due tomorrow, so important that we get some approval from you all today to be able to get that submitted. There is one change to this this item. We're looking at between 267 and Bridge Enterprise and funds a a match of up to 90 million. The current resolution for the Transportation Commission, I believe, says 80 million. So we would be asking you to make that change to the resolution as an edit, and then it'll be consistent with what you already have on the bridge enterprise is the correct number of 90 million. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions or comments on this proposed resolution number 11? I'd like to comment that this is within my district, and I have to say that Adams County commissioners view this as their top priority for transportation improvements, and the ability for us to get an infra grant to help with this fairly significant, costly effort is much appreciated. So thank you very much. I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Is Kathy second?
So I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gifford and a second by Commissioner Hall. Any other comments or questions? Is there anyone on the commission who wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone on the commission who is opposed to approval of this resolution? Seeing none, the chair calls this as unanimous approval of proposed resolution number 11. Thank you. Number 17, which is discuss and act on proposed resolution 12, has been taken off the agenda and is deferred to a future Transportation Commission meeting. The next is discuss and act on proposed resolution number 13, which is FY22 final budget, and this is Jeff.
Hello, I'm requesting your approval of the final fiscal year 22 Cdot budget. The fiscal year 22 budget allocates nearly $1 billion in revenue to new programs, in addition to any balances rolling forward from the current fiscal year 21. The budget reflects continued efforts to find opportunities to reduce costs and increase efficiency, and successfully closes a nearly $46 million funding gap created by reduced HUTF revenues. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd request that you consider a motion to approve.
Thanks very much, and thanks for your work and your group's work on working on that budget item that came to a good resolution. Any comments from the commission?
Just one to point out, between two of the whereases, the large difference in the allocation plan and the spending plan. I believe majority of that is projects that are underway but have not been expended fully for the construction projects. So just for the public's reference, those differences are just between planned budget and the ongoing budget items that are under construction.
Thanks for that comment, Commissioner Beatty. It's a good point to make. Any other comments from the commission? A motion to approve would be in order.
This is Commissioner Brackey. I move to approve.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hall, I second.
Thank you. A motion to approve by Commissioner Brackey, second by Commissioner Hall. Any further comments? It looks to me like maybe Commissioner Sink has a comment. No? Yes?
I was going to second, but I will make a comment that I am continually impressed by how Jeff and his group and even at the region level have this ability to make it all work somehow, and it's really fairly remarkable that they can come up with these creative answers to making it all work. So thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, and being flexible within the regions as well to make cuts and changes that will help us get to that bottom line. Thank you. Are there any further comments from the commission? Is there anyone in the commission that wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone on the commission who is voting in opposition to this motion to approve? All right, seeing none, the chair calls this as unanimous approval for proposed resolution number 13. Thank you. And finally, we have discussed and act on proposed resolution number 14, revitalizing Main Streets grants, state stimulus project selection process, and that's Rebecca.
Good morning, Commissioners. Seeking your approval for proposed resolution number 14, which is regarding the recent bill passed by the state legislature to allocate $30 million to support two existing grant programs, the Safer Main Streets and Revitalizing Main Streets. As discussed yesterday, staff is proposing a relaunch of a statewide grant program under the single umbrella of the Revitalizing Main Streets. However, these dollars would go to both small grants for COVID-related infrastructure resiliency and larger grants focused on safety, particularly around urban arterials. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Are there any comments or questions from the commission? We're pretty excited about this opportunity statewide, I think, and it builds on the success that we had on the first program that was built on the DRCOG program and then beyond that. And I want to thank the legislature for giving us the amount of money that they've given us in order to do this. And it's a stimulus piece as well. So really, really thankful to get this and eager to get it out into the jurisdictions and communities in order to buy down some of those grants and do some good stuff with it in the manner that each of those communities need. So it's pretty exciting. And the fact that there's two pots, two different sorts of money for large grants and for smaller grants is really great, I think. So thank you very much. Any commissioners' comments before we ask for a motion to approve? All right, looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve Proposition 14.
I second Lisa Hickey.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Vasquez and a second from Commissioner Hickey. Any further comments? Is there anyone on the commission that wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone on the commission that wishes to oppose this motion to approve? All right, I'm seeing none, and so the chair calls it as unanimous approval for proposed resolution number 14. Thank you and congratulations to all of us. We're going to get the benefit of this money that came from the legislature specifically for this program. Thank you. Next on the agenda is recognitions. Are there any recognitions today?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Any other matters to come before the Transportation Commission?
Nope.
Thank you. So we are calling adjournment 10:34 for the Transportation Commission meeting, and the Bridge Enterprise Board of Directors meeting will be immediately following this meeting. And then there's an additional workshop following the Bridge Enterprise Board of Directors meeting. So nobody leave yet, unless you have to. So we'll go right into the Bridge Enterprise Board of Directors meeting and we'll call the meeting to order. And would you please call roll?
Director Gifford.
She's there.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I am here. Thank you.
Very good. Director Stanton.
Here.
Director Adams. Director Adams. See him there. Director Brackey.
Here.
Director Vasquez.
Here.
Director Zink.
Here.
Director Hickey.
Here, thank you.
Director Tebow.
Here.
Director Beatty.
Here.
Vice Chair Hall.
Here.
Chair Stewart.
Here. So we call Director Adams is here as well. We can see he's on.
Yes.
Thank you. Public comments are next. Did we have any public comments provided to us?
No, ma'am, we have not.
Thank you. We are now to act on a consent agenda. Proposed resolution BE1 to approve the regular meeting minutes of February 18th, 2021, and the approval of proposed resolution BE2, updated Bridge Enterprise Policy Directive 1601, and that's the oversight of faster funding for state bridges. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve would be in order.
Madam Chair, this is Hall. I move for approval of the consent agenda. Items B1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Is second, Commissioner Hickey?
Thank you. Can you?
Was that correct? 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's just 1, 2, isn't it?
I think it's just 1 and 2. Just ask Herman here. It looks on my agenda to be 1 and 2.
You're right. I'm sorry. It's just 1 and 2. Sorry about that. Just 1 and 2.
That's okay. You're just trying to help us get through the agenda a little faster. Appreciate that. Okay, so your motion is to approve consent agenda items 1 and 2.
That's
and
correct.
Thank you. And is it Commissioner Hickey with a second?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Is there anyone on the board of directors who wishes to abstain from this vote? Anyone on the board of directors who wishes to vote in opposition to this motion? All right, I'm seeing none, so we are going to call this as unanimous approval from the board of directors of the Bridge Enterprise for the consent agenda. Thank you. Now we'll go to number 4, which is discuss and act on proposed resolution BE3, BE funding match for the FY 2021 Infra grant program. And that's Jeff again.
Hello. This is the companion piece to the resolution you approved for the submittal of an Infra grant application for the I-270 Safety and Mobility Project. This resolution would commit the Bridge Enterprise to providing up to a maximum of $90 million in Bridge Enterprise funding to the I-270 project if it is the successful recipient of the Infra grant. If that grant is in fact successful, we'll return to you at that time to formally approve the funding. Right now, this is just a commitment in principle that we can count on Bridge Enterprise funding at a future date if the grant is successful. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd request you consider a motion to approve.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Jeff? Or a motion is in order to approve?
This is Commissioner Brackey. I move to approve BE3.
Thank you. Second?
Stanton, second.
Thank you. I guess you're directors and not commissioners on this one. So Director Brackey makes a motion to approve and Director Stanton is second to that. Any other questions? Is there anyone who wishes to abstain from this vote? Is there anyone who wishes to vote in opposition to this motion? All right, seeing none, it's unanimous approval for proposed resolution number BE3. Thank you. Finally, it's discuss and act on proposed resolution BE4, which is FY 21-22 final budget. That's Jeff.
Hello, one last time. I'm requesting your approval of the fiscal year 22 Bridge Enterprise budget. This is the companion action to your approval as the commission of the overall Cdot fiscal year 22 budget, which incorporates the Bridge Enterprise budget and the HPTE budget. The final fiscal year 22 Bridge Enterprise budget allocates over $125 million to programs and projects. A detailed version of this budget appears in your packet, with a summary version incorporated in the overall department budget you just approved as the Transportation Commission. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd request you consider a motion to approve.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jeff? All right, seeing none, a motion to approve is in order.
I move to approve resolution BE4.
Thank you.
Second, Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you. So we have a
Director,
motion.
sorry.
We have a motion by Director Zink and a second by Director Vasquez. Any questions? Any further discussion? Anyone who wants to abstain from this vote? And is there anyone voting in opposition of this motion? All right, thank you. Seeing none, it's unanimous approval for proposed resolution BE4. Thank you very much. Are there any other matters to come before the Board of Enterprise Directors?
No, Chair.
No, thank you. So the Bridge Enterprise Board of Directors meeting is adjourned, and we're going to go into an additional workshop on freight workforce issues. Immediately following this, I do want to draw your attention to the info only documents that are listed in your agenda. And just want to thank Jeff Sudemeyer and his group for providing those documents for the actions that we take, extra information there, and opportunity for people to take a pretty good look at our budget. Also, Division of Transit and Rail, Safer Main Streets informational update, and an updated greenhouse gas rule, all of which things will be coming back to us throughout the next few meetings. So I'm going to say, since we're running fast, if it's all right if we take a 5-minute break or maybe 8-minute break.
Chair
Yes.
Stewart, I just
Yes.
wanted to point out that Hinsdale County Commissioner Hurd has joined us, and I think maybe he missed the actual discussion, but again, it was a very good discussion, and we did vote in favor of the project with all the caveats that went with it. So we all appreciate your involvement.
Well, thank you. I guess I was late to the party, but thanks a lot for your support, and we won't let you down. We're going to do everything we can to keep this program safe and sound. So I do appreciate the support from the commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you as well. Thank you very much. So could we do a 5-minute break and come back at 10:50? And then we'll go into the freight workshop issues. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay, thank you. Okay, looks like it's 10:50. And let's resume our agenda here, which calls out a freight workforce issues meeting workshop. And it's Rebecca White, Michelle Showerman, and Craig Hurst. Thanks.
All right, good morning, commissioners. I'll very quickly turn this over to Michelle Sherman and Craig Hurst, our small but very mighty freight office. I just want to say at the beginning here that I really appreciate the extra time today. You all have such great stamina to stick through 2 full days and then add on another briefing. But this is an important one. I think this is an example of the benefit that we receive from having this freight office. This briefing in particular focuses on some work we've been doing in partnership with the freight industry, really focus on workforce development and training. I noticed yesterday that when Mike Timlin was talking about the CDL shortage, we're feeling that within our own ranks as we recruit drivers for snowplows, but it's certainly been painful for the freight industry as well. So Michelle and Craig will talk about some exciting work we have to help more people to enter this really great field. All right, Michelle, are you ready?
I'm ready. Well, good morning, commissioners, and thank you for having us today. I wanted to start off and say a huge thank you to Director Liu for bringing this to the forefront and to commission. I believe that we're working on such exciting initiatives because of Director Liu and the excellent relationship that she's forged with the freight industry. So thank you, Director Liu, and thank you to my supervisor, Rebecca, for allowing me to work on this really cool and exciting project. Next slide. So I'm actually going to let Craig tee us off here and give you a little bit of context why we're even in this world and trying to address these challenges. Craig?
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. So as we work with the freight industry, we continue to hear that from the Freight Advisory Council that addressing the CDL driver shortage is a top priority of the industry, not only in Colorado, but nationwide. The driver shortage impacts all facets of our economy and is currently impacting industries such as public transportation, essential supply chains, municipal garbage collection, and snow removal operations. Next slide, please. The industry does have some challenges and barriers to entry to overcome, such as age requirements, competing industries, compensation, and the average age of employees that are in key roles in this industry. So we are very happy to support the industry as they come together and try to address and solve this problem through the Freight Sector Partnership that Michelle will be giving you an update on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Next slide, please. So Greg's provided you with some great context on why we're trying to work with the industry to combat these challenges. I do want to say that Cdot actively supports the Colorado Freight Advisory Council, not only administratively, but we work hand in hand with them developing their annual work plan. This critical issue of workforce challenges was a key priority in their plan and also in Cdot's Colorado Freight Plan. And I just want to allude really quickly to a comment that Rebecca made earlier that, Cdot is not immune to these issues as well. especially in the area of CDL driver shortage, which is really a primary focus of this sector partnership. I also wanted to say that this is the first sector partnership of this kind focused on transportation in Colorado, and it's currently an industry-led effort and the only one that's really working on this right now. Next slide. So why is Cdot engaged on this? Obviously, we just talked about the FAC priorities, the shared benefits. I think a lot of the benefits and strategies that are going to come out of this sector partnership will also help Cdot as well. And then this is an excellent way actually to leverage partnerships and actions that will come out of the sector partnership. And it's really pretty, I would say, innovative in the areas of public-private partnerships, where we can not only leverage partnerships, but leverage dollars. Next slide. So what is a sector partnership? Well, actually, sector partnership is in state statute, Senate Bill 14-205. It is highly promoted by our governor to increase economic vitality in the state. It's actually a proven model that brings workforce together and the employers to address these type of issues. And I do want to note just really quickly that this was the only sector partnership that was brave enough to launch amid the COVID crisis. Usually this is a forum that gets together. It's a table structure where industry sits in the table and supporting partners are on the outside. But I have to say, I think we took a great opportunity here because we have a captive audience with these virtual meetings. So it's actually worked out quite well. I also want to add that, this is industry-led and it brings together the right employers, training providers, workforce development, the economic development, and other supporting partners to identify the best strategies and solutions. Next slide. I have to say we couldn't have done this without our sister agency, the Colorado Workforce Development Council. They were actually one who brought this to us as a potential strategy to help address these issues. It's been a great partnership, and they have actually helped us to navigate these uncharted waters at Cdot, and it's just been a great collaborative effort. Next slide. So this is just a pictorial of the other sector partnerships that have gone on in the state of Colorado. Obviously, I won't go through all of them, but there are a copious amount from health industry to retail. Again, I do want to say that this freight sector partnership is the first transportation sector partnership in Colorado. So we're the first one out the gate, so we better do this well. Next slide. Just really quickly, commissioners, a sector partnership could either be short-lived or long-lived. It depends on the mission and goals of the sector partnership. Here's just a quick model of the sector partnership that's been going on since 2013. It now has over 200 members and it's funded through grants, donations, and proceeds. So again, it's dependent upon the industry of how long they would like their sector partnership to continue. Next slide. So in the sector partnership model, there are really some key roles and responsibilities. I won't go through all of them, but just really quickly, the conveners of the sector partnership is myself and Kathleen Collins with Cdot in planning. We have our industry champions, which is Lori Brown, the Denver Transportation Club, and Janice Haug of Haug Transportation, and also the former FAC chair. Facilitators who have helped us along the way, again, are Colleen Watanaka and Shawan Williams with the Colorado Workforce Development Council. Next slide, please. So I won't go through and read the entire mission statement to you. It's quite lengthy, but this sector partnership really took some, I would say, deliberate time to develop their mission statement. A couple of things I do want to bring to the forefront, commissioners, is that this workforce issue has been addressed from multiple vantage points throughout the years. And some things have worked and some things have not worked well. The thing about this sector partnership and their mission is that this is really a consolidated program. The first, program to bring things together, take a look at the strategies to be employed. They also wanted to use a contemporary lens on this to address these issues. Because this has been done in the past, there are some, I would say, for lack of a better term, some archaic strategies. So they wanted to use a contemporary lens, and they also really wanted to be innovative and ensure that whatever comes out of this sector partnership is implementable and would lead to success. Next slide. So again, just really quickly, this industry sector partnership was launched in June of 2020. Today we have more than 30 industry and workforce partners involved. This sector partnership, I would say after the second meeting really said, hey, we have lots of issues we want to delve into. And the best way to do this would to be form working groups. So there are currently 3 working groups: talent, recruitment and retention, market development and career pathways. And I'll go into detail in a moment on those. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, thank you. So this is just a pictorial of some of the progress that's been made since the inception of the sector partnership. Again, this was just a mere thought in January of 2020 how we were going to address this workforce challenge. The partnership started in June of 2020 and has been going strong ever since. Next slide. Commissioners, I just wanted to give you a smattering of some of the businesses and organizations that are involved and very supportive of the sector partnership. It obviously includes nonprofits, educational institutions, other county agencies, other sister agencies. And to one quick point, when John Cater mentioned earlier about the Work Now, we are also engaged with United Way on this project, who's also going to help us to connect quality jobs to the communities. So a work in progress. Next slide. So I'm not going to go through all the members, Commissioner, but I wanted to give you a flavor of who's in the working groups and what they decided to tackle. The Talent Recruitment and Retention Work Group is led by Jason Emery of Excel Drivers Services. Some work group members are CMCA, Amazon, Stack, and others. Supporting partners, Warren Tech, CDL Safety School, Larimer County, and others. The 2 main things that they wanted to accomplish within this short time frame, and when I say short, commissioners, within the next 90 days, is develop, launch, and summarize a survey around talent and recruitment and retention, and then also to develop a pilot apprenticeship program for commercial drivers. Next slide. The Marketing Development Work Group is led by Jack Buffington with DU and supported by Eric Denny with Denny Transport. Some work group members, and this has grown since commissioners, the Denver Transportation Club, UPS. Some supporting partners to note, Economic Development Council of Colorado, Denver World Trade Center, Larimer County, and others. The Marketing Development Group really wanted to look at developing a marketing plan that could be utilized by supporting partners and others. Next slide. The Career Pathway Development Work Group is led by Scott Hutchings, owner of Waste Management. Some work group members are Howe Transportation, Colorado, Wyoming Petroleum, Iron Woman Construction, and others. Supporting partners are the Adams County Workforce, Talking Logistics, Colorado Community College, and others. And really, what they're eyeing right now is to develop a career pathway for commercial drivers. Next slide. This is just a quick pictorial that was provided by Jill Howard, who's working with us from the Jefferson County Workforce. Really what it illustrates is that, there's not just one career along this pathway. From high school to a bachelor's degree, there's a plethora of job opportunities. Next slide. This is really a picture or diagram, excuse me, of how you build a career pathway. I do want to note, commissioners, that career pathways are part of Senate Bill 205-14 that I talked about earlier. And actually 2 career pathways must be developed each year. Our freight industry pathway is next on the list, and we are working with a CDWC's consultant on this. But currently we are in phase 3, identifying critical occupations. So we have a ways to go, but within 90 days, we will have a diagram which demonstrates the career pathway for drivers. And then the larger build out of the career pathway will be accomplished in 1 year. Next slide. The marketing work group really wanted to focus on the components of a marketing plan. Obviously, audience and markets, materials, collateral, messaging, and so on and so forth. And really looking at platforms that are sustainable. I did want to note that they are really, one of the key audiences that they are marketing are ex-military or soon to be ex-military, because it's a good resource for CDL drivers. So we are working right now with Troop Logistics 2, there's a mouthful, who actually is a recruiter for ex-military. So that looks very promising. Next slide. This is just some samplings of materials and collateral for marketing that are nationwide. And we have our very own Colorado Delivers brand here that we're going to leverage for this effort. Next slide. The talent working group, they really felt that they needed a survey to go out to industry to really understand what are the problems in recruitment and retention. So we have partnered with DU grad students. They have developed the survey for us. The survey was distributed by CMCA, a partner in our sector partnership, who has sent the survey out to over 600 industries. And we are now in the process, next slide please, of gathering results. And hopefully, that will help us to tell the story of what are these issues and how to best address them. Next slide. The talent work group really wanted to focus on developing an apprenticeship program. Little did I know that there are registered apprenticeship programs in Colorado. And we're working with the Colorado Urban Workforce Alliance. Their consultant is actually a statewide registered apprentice consultant. And he actually walked the group through what this program would look like and the benefits and opportunities for industries to be a part or at least establish an apprenticeship program within their companies. Next slide. This is just a couple examples of companies who were, I would say, somewhat reluctant to really tread the waters of developing an apprenticeship program. I want to acknowledge Centura Health. Initially, they developed 1 apprenticeship program. They are now up to 5 and have 45 apprentices, excuse me. And it's been very, very effective. Next slide. So lastly, commissioners, just a little bit about key milestones and where we go from here. This month, we are working with all the working groups to define their collateral and deliverables. And then we're going to have a joint networking session with all our supporting partners and the industry in April to talk about here's what we have, how do we deploy these materials, and best practices and uses. And then the full sector partnership will be brought together in May to talk about where they go from here and the longevity and sustainability of this sector partnership. So with that, I'm done, and I certainly entertain any questions or comments.
Michelle, if there's no one else, this is Eula Adams. I have a comment for you, and I put it in the chat box.
Okay.
I sit on the board of CareerWise Colorado, and it is the state-sponsored apprenticeship program. You know, when Governor Hickenlooper was the governor, he put $6 million into apprenticeship programs. And we have been in discussions with our Small Business and Diversity and Inclusion Committee within Cdot about trying to develop a CDL program in conjunction with CareerWise Colorado and Community College of Denver. One of the interesting things about CareerWise right now is we've actually been interested in collaborating with other people. And so your comments about apprenticeships is something that we should really pursue with your group, because there's a strong interest in helping them with this. Now, some of the people that we're identifying are youngsters coming out of high school who need to be trained and they need to go through programs, but CareerWise is actually putting some money into some of these programs for people to be developed and trained. So it fits right in with your two slides about apprenticeships. Is something that we should really have a conversation about. And I think this would be exciting to CareerWise Colorado. And from your expressions, it looks like you and Craig would be interested in this as well.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Thank you. That's really exciting.
So can we arrange at some point a conversation about this, and I'll connect you with the guys from CareerWise. In fact, I've got a board meeting with them this afternoon. So I know that they would be extremely excited about the opportunity to do this.
Oh, and I'm just as excited. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Commissioner Adams. We've got Commissioner Zink and then Stanton, who would like to speak as well.
I probably just missed it, but could you go back and talk about the Colorado Workforce Development Council? How was that created and what does it do?
So Commissioner Zink, I don't know the actual origination, but they are our sister agency, and they were the mission of their organization or agency is to really help others address workforce issues in Colorado.
So it is a governmental agency?
Yes, Commissioner, it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other
Commissioner Hall, weren't you involved with the Workforce Development Council? I think I was years ago, but Kathy, I thought you were like the chair of that at one time, weren't you? Oh, you're muted. Kathy, you're muted.
What are you saying, Kathy?
I think she's saying yes, but I can't read her lips. Kathy, you're muted.
She obviously can't hear us either.
Well, then never mind.
Well,
all right, let's.
Can't connect with her chair.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she still is, but I know at one point we were both on that, and I think it's elected officials who are part of that organization. So let's go to Commissioner Stanton then.
Thanks, Chair Stewart and Michelle and Craig. That was really a neat brief. What about the military as far as Veterans Administration, connecting directly with them, because they do have programs to try to get vets to get CDLs from their military license and experience. Secondly, the governor is the head of the Colorado National Guard, so there might be a way to multiply off of that. And third, you've got Fort Carson, which is huge, and there's probably a career office in there that you could connect with.
All excellent comments, Commissioner. So Troop 2 Logistics that we are working with are actually putting us in contact with Fort Carson, and also to connect with veterans as well.
Okay,
and if I,
now, is that a private
Commissioner? We have a very good relationship with Fort Carson by doing over 1,000 permits with them a year for oversized loads. And so we're trying to use that as well to connect to their drivers there. We've been out there to help them scale their M1 Abrams tank on the back of a heavy equipment transport. It's about
Right.
275,000 pounds, and they have 19-year-old drivers pulling that. And so there's a very good pilot program out of the Army that is trying to help 18 to 20-year-olds get their CDL and be able to travel through interstate, which is not currently legal. And so that pilot has been very successful, and we hope to continue to work with them so we can take part in that.
And then also locally, we have a huge Air Force presence, Craig, as you know, that there might be a way for some synergies. And my question to Michelle was this Group 2 logistics or whatever, is that a private group? And are they a private or nonprofit?
They are private recruiter, Commissioner.
Okay. Just a devil's advocate thought is, I think Craig's way of going direct to the military, and then don't forget the VA, if you could link directly with them, because they have a very big program. I think it's out of Washington, but there's a lot of CDL training work going on that might catch some other people that aren't necessarily at Carson or whatever, that might be people who got out of the military and they're living on a Western slope or out on a farm in the East Colorado, that might give you a better catchment overview. Thank you.
Oh, great advice. Thank you, Commissioner.
Karen, I'm now on. For some reason, just as you asked me that question, my computer just went completely out. So how funny is that? But anyway, yes, you're right. I was chairman of that for most of the time that I was commissioner, and you served on there as well. And one of the things that, this issue over CDL drivers has been huge for as long as I've been involved, which is a really long time. And the thing that's always been the hardest is to get all of the local small schools, like like Colorado Mountain College, for example, really worked with them to get them to be teaching the CDL. Because so many times what happens is, if these drivers can get their CDL, they can go on, they can afford then to go on to get more education. As we talked about, you can go on further. And so, and then during this all goes back to the workforce, as we talk about it in welfare reform, which when I was a county commissioner, when we wrote welfare reform, we rewrote welfare reform and how it should be handled in Colorado. That was the biggest issue, was trying to find that kind of training that would come through local schools. And so having a CDL opportunity is so huge, and it's kind of hard to get them. Sometimes people always want to go to higher education, when in fact CDL driving is a great way to make a living. In fact, I think Commissioner Adams and I sort of had a conversation about that this week, actually, didn't we, Eula, on the fact that we need to get these high school kids, and of course they can't drive international until they're 21, but to get them started within in state. So I know you're doing all that, but that's what's really important, is your local community colleges. I know you're talking to DU, and DUs, that's helpful, but you really need to get with your local community colleges, and like out in Western Colorado Community College is where we have the CDL training out there. But it's kind of important to get back to high school kids, to let them start looking at, that's a good way to make a living. You can support your family on these kinds of jobs. And so you almost need to start back in high school to get kids understanding that's a way to go, because so many times they come out of high school, they have no idea what they want to do. And if you give them a start in something like that, where they make a good living, they can use that then go on and get more education if they want to. So I'd say, we need to really look at getting the idea of this in schools, because it is a huge problem, but in high schools, where they can start thinking about that as some way to make a living as they get out of high school. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall, real quickly, just to follow on to your comment, since you mentioned me, you're absolutely right. It is the CareerWise Colorado is totally about getting started in high school. Yeah. And when we had the discussion, and Cdot's already been involved in this, we had it with the Community College of Denver president. And they were totally on board with adding a curriculum addition that would help develop someone to get the CDL, and it would be starting with them as early as high school. So everything we're talking about It's totally in line. In fact, while we were standing here, I did do a little multitasking, and I've drafted a note already to Noel Ginsburg and to the team at CareerWise Colorado, letting them know about this conversation, and hopefully we can get together very quickly.
And Commissioner, one thing I would love to say about that is, I spent about 10 years in the private industry, in the trucking industry before coming here, and we had a ton of success, getting 18-year-olds to come in and be forklift drivers. And they really got to test the industry for 3 years, but it's a great job. There's multiple shifts. So if you have family obligations, you can have tons of different opportunities for shifts, different scheduling. And really it's, the top drivers of the company I work for, we're making well over 6 figures. And so it's a very good job to move forward on. And we are happy to support this with the industry, because it will be very good for our overall economy.
And one other thing, Craig, to give credit where credit is due, Commissioner Beatty, on one Saturday afternoon while they were harvesting crop, he allowed me to spend some time on a harvester, and I got a chance to see the level of technology that's included in some of these vehicles. And I certainly understand why these jobs would command the kind of compensation levels that they command, because of the skill with handling the vehicles, but also some of the technology that must be mastered in order to be persuasive. So it's even beyond the transportation aspects within the, say, a Cdot kind of environment, but it is certainly broader than that within the state in terms of what someone can do with a CDL. It could certainly make it possible for independent students and individuals to basically create a commercial opportunity for themselves that could really drive 6-figure kind of lifestyles. So I think from a job creation standpoint, this is an outstanding avenue that we should definitely work with.
And I certainly concur with that.
Okay, Rebecca and Michelle, anything else? And Craig, anything else for us?
No, thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
For the connections and the advice. Thank you, commissioners.
You can see there's a lot of
impressive.
You can see there's a lot of enthusiasm.
All right, I think that concludes us, unless there's anything else. And everybody have a great month, and we'll see you next month, and more fun and games as we always have. Thank you everyone for hanging in there, and I can't wait to turn this over to you, Kathy. This is going to be like every time I get these packets, I think, oh gosh, I can't wait till Kathy holds the chair.
You do a great job, Chair.
Thank you.
You do a tremendously good job. I cannot ever begin to do as well as you. That's for sure, because you do such a good job. Really
Well,
good.
thank you. I felt the same with all my predecessors, with Sydney and with Shannon and with Bill. So yeah, well, thank you, everyone. All right, happy Thursday. See